I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb. Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land, not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to win the hearts and minds of the people, but for the actual land and the resources within the land. So it is safe to say that land is the foundation to all freedom. So if we truly want to be free, then our struggle is for land. Free the land.
We always said in Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
These are the voices of New Africa. These are the voices of New Africa. These are the voices of New Africa. Free in the land, and we ain't asking y'all.
And welcome to another episode of the Voices of New Africa. Put your stuff on mute for a second, come in. Hey, for that, not for Dolly. Yeah, you.
Mine's on mute.
Oh, okay, yours on mute.
I got that on there.
I got you. So, welcome to another episode of the Voices of New Africa, the show where we educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. I'm your host, Brother Prophecy, but I'm not by myself. As always, I have my elder, the Grandmaster Teacher for Dolly with me, and my comrade, the soldier, freedom fighter, the one and only, one, Brother Kakai. How's everybody doing today? I know, probably a little sad because like before this show, there's a show called the Love Power Show. And when I was on my way to the radio station, I turned on the Love Power Show, and it kind of threw me off because I heard the voice of Wallace Red. Wallace Red is the host, or was the host of the Love Power Show. And a few weeks ago, he succumbed to an illness that he had been fighting for some time now. But when I turned on the radio show and I heard his voice, it kind of messed me up for a second, because probably right now as we speak, they're having his homegoing ceremony. And in fact, our comrades, my comrades, for Dolly and Kakai actually joined the radio portion of the show a little late because they were paying their respects to Wallace Red. So I just wanted to kind of start the show with some acknowledgement of our brother, because it's on my heart to do so, and allow anybody else to say a couple of words before we get into the show. You got anything you want to say, Brother Fadali, before we start the show?
Free the land. I will. Brother, I knew him first as Bobby Tunzi Tanyika, and before he went back to his slave name, Wallace Red. And he was a brother that was faithful to trying to be independent, trying to deal with his livelihood in terms of being, in other words, having his own products and stuff that he was selling and different things like that. And he even became part of a movement for vendors, because Memphis had destroyed vendors' livelihood by not allowing them to go out on certain areas of Memphis in which they could meet the people and they could sell their products. And so consequently, this is where we could see a situation where we got to understand that while we must be an independent people, that we must be self-reliant. So Wallace Red actually stands for self-reliance.
Yeah. You got anything you want to say, comment?
Yeah. I need to thank you how long have I known Brother Sanika? It had to be the early part of the 2000s, because around 2008, we used to have those classes on Sunday. Mom and Isaac Richmond was the ones that introduced me to Wallace Red, because I was giving speeches on time, and Brother Wallace Red wanted to develop his presentation skills, and I first would go come up to the radio program and be on the Isaac Richmond show. It was called oh man, what was Isaac Richmond show called? But anyway, that was some years ago. That's why I met the brother.
The Moment of Truth.
The Moment of Truth. That's right. It was the Moment of Truth. And if I'm not mistaken, if he's not on the air, if he's still on the air, it's around 8:30 in the morning on Sunday on this channel. He's not. Yeah. So that's where we started talking. Myself and Wallace Red, and Wallace Red said he wanted to be a part of the radio program. So he came up here and talked to Isaac Richmond, which eventually he was a guest speaker for a minute. And then because of his entrepreneurship, he wanted to have his own. And that's when he decided that he was going to have his own and come on after the Moment of Truth. And I think from that point on, he started getting airtime, developing the radio program to where we had, and this is because of Wallace Red, we have 2.5 hour slot of talking about liberating our people and the things we need to do to improve starting off with the love power and ending up with the Voices of New Africa. And we've had that 2.5 hour slot for some years now, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a few years. So, I appreciate the brother's efforts while he was here to try to keep the message out, to try to give us a platform to talk about issues and concerns within our community. I love the brother for that. I know he's in a better place than being in this oppressive, exploitive, capitalist system here that we're dealing on a daily basis. And I'm just thankful that he has peace now, and he's not tied up in the hands of these oppressive people in which we live today. So, I love you, brother. I know you're watching over us. If there was a way to get us a message, I know you would. But I'm not in that spiritual realm. I don't know much about that, but I do know that you did as much as you could while you was here. That's all I have to say about the brother.
He did his job while he was here, and now he can rest. Now I'll leave it with that. But yeah, it's been a lot going on. We're still in the backdrop of on the backdrop of this case that has gotten national attention. Last Wednesday, we laid to rest our brother Tyre Nichols, who was brutally beaten by police officers. I won't just simply say 5 police, because there were more than 5 police out there. There are 5 police who were arrested. Others have been fired, along with firemen, EMT, medical workers. The individual who was first on the scene, the individual who first tased him and pepper sprayed him, he's finally been fired. We have a name to that. His name is Preston Hemphill. This is the European, the white guy who was on the scene, that they waited until, after everything had been released before they began to investigate him. And I think that was purposely done because
I don't think they released it because of whatever reason they give them. It was that you broke the news last Sunday of the white man. And then from that point on, I started seeing different um, conversation about the additional officers. But that happened here on the Voices of New Africa when you mentioned it in the opening of the show.
yeah. So now he has been fired. His name is Preston Hemphill, European white cop. Um, I think he's like 26 years old, young guy, and he's the first person who tased the brother. He pepper sprayed the brother. He said, I hope they stump him, or something like that. But initially they didn't put his face on there, and I think they did not want to have a white face connected with this, because if they have a white face connected, then they, you that whole narrative of it's just black people, we just killing each other, black on black violence. You can't push that narrative. And even though that narrative is not true, it's false. This is a system of oppression, or a white system of oppression. This is um, African people working under the authority of a white power structure, white mentality, a white mindset, for the purpose of the exploitation of black people, black and brown people in America. Um, but after the funeral last week, we were able to have a town hall meeting. Um, Individuals like the New Black Panther Party was there. I was there representing the Republic of New Africa. The Black Liberation Movement from Mississippi was there, along with other organizations. You had individuals from the Nation of Islam, people who were advocating the Million Fathers, Black Fathers March, and others. And we were all there for the purpose of trying to figure out real concrete solutions, not just begging white folks to try to treat us but some real concrete solutions, some things that we can do here on the ground to take control of our community, so we will not be dependent upon a system that benefits from our exploitation. And this is what we have to do. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna turn it over to you, Grandmaster Teacher, to add your perspective.
Yes, brothers and sisters, we have to understand that this what happened is something that normally happens all the time. Only this case, you only know about it because the brother bled to death as a result of the beating. But this same group, yeah, have been in our community for about a year and a half, and they have done a lot of damage in the community in terms of hopping out and supposedly trying to arrest criminals and all that. I think they had about 100 arrests, something, so now all of that got to be investigated. That wouldn't have happened if the brother had not died, if Nichols had not died. And we got to understand that, and then they held on to tape. But usually they hold on to the tape a little longer. When we had Amy Warwick, as the so-called DA, it would be like a year, maybe 6 months or a year before you'll be able to see any kind of action on police, and no police officer has been convicted as far as I know in terms of Memphis police. So this is a regular action of Memphis police. And, unfortunately, we have, some brothers and sisters who basically identified with the Memphis, as being the Memphis police. And a lot of them characterize themselves as blue and not black. So consequently, this is the result of the activities of these. But this goes to the beginning. When we look at and understand that the Southern police, in particular, were all Confederates. Former Confederates. And the police was set up, and then ultimately when they began to put black folks, in there, even though we heard, Sharpton say, that civil rights, we protest so they could be a part of that. But no, some of them were part of that before, and their duty was to police the black community and do whatever they could. So a lot of black people have been beaten by black, so it's the Memphis police and almost all metropolitan police in America and other places. And so we know that outside the world, the world, beyond us, that these modus operandi, of police, wherever we are, wherever we exist. And so consequently, what we have to do is understand that and do what we have to do in terms of organizing ourselves and come up with our united front. Not saying we want peace, just peace, and praying for the enemy and all that kind of stuff, which nobody does that. Nobody but us does that. They go through a process by which we want to forgive the enemy and all that kind of stuff. And no matter where it exists, but they're doing it on behalf of a white supremacist system that my brother aptly described earlier, on the radio program, and this is what we have to understand, that system, and it is designed to criminalize us and to oppress us. And once they criminalize us, then we don't have no response because we think that they're just doing their job, arresting criminals and all that. But we know that the majority of people are not criminals. So the Tyre Nichols case shows that anybody that looks like African people are going to be subject to that kind of treatment, especially from our officers who are trying to impress, the white supremacist officers in position, or the mayor, because in Memphis the mayor is in control of the police. Memphis is a strong mayor system, and it's the mayor who creates, the situation of the police chief and whatever we used to have, police director and all that kind of stuff. And it's the mayor that determines, who is in charge, and so therefore we have not, even though the mayor gave a statement and all that, but we know that this mayor basically came in, wanted to recreate Blue Cross and Blue Crush. And Blue Crush was, for a minute, the modus operandi of taking and going in our community and brutalizing our people in the community. And this thing with the scorpion is just a further, situation that shows, how we stand, in our own communities, and they got the people who will be the most brutal, who will be most loyal, to the police department.
I'm clumsy today, y'all. But exactly. And we have to really make sure that we are clear about our stance and our position on things, because we have been victimized by a propaganda machine where we identify with the oppressor. I mean, they will just say, well, first of all, every time you look at the news, it's just crime, crime, crime. And if you understand how crime began to be identified with Black people, that's something that was political. It wasn't something that organically happened. You can trace back from Richard Nixon, who made the statement that Black people are the problem, and the key is to devise a plan that can deal with them without appearing to do so. And you started seeing certain cases that involve Black men beginning to be plastered all over the media, and it created a certain fear of Black people. But it didn't just start, and you can go all the way back to Birth of a Nation. The movie after the Civil War was the first blockbuster movie in history. It was about Black men getting free from the system of chattel slavery, terrorizing the white community, raping the white women and destroying everything. And it was the necessity of the white power structure to create the Ku Klux Klan to heroically come and save America from the brutal, uncivilized so-called black man. This propaganda was shown in the White House, and they have, ever since, and even before that, perpetuated this myth of the boogeyman. And in war, one of the first things that you do to a people before you go to war with them is you demonize the people. You demonize the people so you are justified for killing them, for murdering them, for committing the atrocities that you're going to commit on them during the process of war. They did that to the indigenous peoples of the America. They did that to the African people before they enslaved the African people under this system of chattel slavery. They do this to us, to the descendants of enslaved people, to the descendants of indigenous people in America. So these are all war tactics. And we have to recognize when we are falling victim of a war tactic. So when we look at, what's going on in our community and a brother who was murdered by the police, and we start thinking, well, what did he do? If he wouldn't have ran, if he wouldn't have, we have these ideas. We have to understand this is not an organic idea. This is something that has been placed into our head by a propaganda, psychological warfare machine program that has been ran on us before we were even born. So, these are the type of things that we have to eradicate. We have to change our thinking. We have to begin to think black. We have to begin to think in a way that benefits our people, our community, our family, our race, our struggle. Because when the people have the type of control and power over the resources and institutions that govern your lives, then they also control a large amount of the things that influence your thinking. And we have to recognize when the thoughts that we're having, when we're looking at things from a certain perspective that is not in our best interest, we have to recognize that for being what it is. That's a war tactic. And that's why we have to turn to our own independent media sources. That's why we created Novel, and we need to create more. And we need to push this out farther, so more people will be exposed to a different type of thinking, a different perspective. But we can't just stop with talking about the problem.
Right.
We can't. That's something that I can't stress more than it. I feel if we created this Novel network, this program, and it just, the only thing it does is get people to talk about the problem, then I'm gonna feel like, okay, we failed, because we got to not only get people to talk about the problem, but we got to act upon the things that we talk about. Talk about it is a step, and it is a very important step, but we got to have that action to follow up the talk. Because what's that saying about talking loud but saying nothing? Well, we talking loud and we saying something, but we got to do something also. Talk without action is just, you might as well go on to be Arsenio or somebody, But so like I said, we have to recognize the type of programming that we're going through, the type of thinking, the type of behavior, where it comes from. You have to be scientific about that, but we cannot stop with just talking about it. We can't just stop about talking about what happened to Tyre Nichols. We have to have concrete solutions, and that has to come from concrete analysis of the concrete condition, what's really going on, what's actually going on. And we have to address those problems accordingly to the concrete conditions, not what's in your heart, not because you feel a certain way, not because you're angry, because that's not how you solve a problem. You don't solve a problem emotionally. I was on a call, and we were talking about some of the solutions, and it was suggested that hey, stop being afraid of these police. We got to, I was like, well, hold on, when you're getting stopped by a cop, that's not the time that you get angry, upset, emotional, and you want to fight. In war, you never fight your enemy on their own terms. You fight them on your terms. So you have to choose when you're going to fight and when you're not going to fight. And when you're being pulled over by the police, that's not the time to say, I'm going to fight, I'm going to flex up. No, that's the time to survive the encounter. So you have to be extremely calm, even if they're not calm. And that's kind of the crazy thing about this system, because in order to maximize your potential for survival when encountering the police, you have to almost be counterintuitive. Because when you look at what happened to the brother Nichols, I'm like, damn, what could he have done differently? Because immediately they aggressed upon him. Immediately they violently snatched him out of his car, immediately put him to the ground and attacked him. So at that point, you're going to have a fight or flight response, because it's obvious that your life is in danger. You're a threat. Now, what they'll say, well, he should have been calm. He should have been this. And he was calm. The police were not. It just got to the point where they had an opportunity. Well, you know what? I got an opportunity to get away. Let me get away. That's called a flight response. It's a response to a survival response to danger. Get out of danger. But hey, they use that to justify even brutalizing him even more. So we got to catch ourselves when we have these type of thoughts of, well, he shouldn't have ran, or he shouldn't have did whatever. He shouldn't have, No. This type of thinking is the result of propaganda and the self-hate that has been produced upon this in this system. And we have to think in the correct way so we can act in the correct way. And I've been talking probably way longer than I should, so I'm going to open it up to anybody else that want to jump in. And they're usually probably me and you.
Okay, so what happened when we look at it, and there's a situation that happened recently, up until this, I think it was Friday or whatever day, where a guy was supposedly trespassing in front of the Poplar Street by the White Station Library in Clock Tower, and police received a call saying that person was trespassing. So a situation happened, and he wound up moving from out front of Clark Tower and moving to the library. And two police came up, and somehow or another, he was able to wound one police, and the other police killed him. And so we don't really, and so anything that happens in terms of that, we don't have no cameras or anything to show really what happened. But that brother was from Indianapolis, and he had a history of trespassing, in Indianapolis before he came. And then, so the media does what it regularly does. It goes to show his record. And he had like 30 arrests and, different things like that. So we had to preach.
Hold on, comrade. Something happened to your screen. Right. While I'm fixing that, man, what's your thoughts on the comrade? Unmute yourself.
Well, number one, we just as a people have an opportunity to recognize that there's things that outside of the system that we can do to better our situation. We try to get the word out each and every Sunday. And sometimes I think I'm preaching to the choir, but many times I've heard different things from different people. I'm really fed up with it. I know what needs to be done. And so a lot of the things that we have to do, and we don't necessarily have to talk about it. We know whatever is good for us is not system. And we have to be prepared to teach our children, young adults, family members, associates, business partners, professional colleagues, mechanics, doctors, EMT, anybody that we've affiliated with, not just who we select. We need to be open to all of our people. All of our people get a chance to be a part of what we call our new nation, the Republic of New Africa. I know Brother Fidel, you was just saying that I was listening to, there was so much you said, and I was listening to it. And each time I wanted to make a point about something, you bring up something else, which is, it needs to be taught, said. I don't know what else can I say. I mean, I'm really at a loss for words.
Yeah, and I understand that, and we're trying to get comrades, grandmaster teachers, screen back working. We kind of having an issue with that, but yeah, I mean, you know, and understand it's kind of a sad day because one of our brothers, you know, they having his funeral right now. So yeah, I gotta excuse us. The energy kind of low right now because, you know, it's kind of, you know, just it's one of those days. But I do want to go to the audience because we have a brilliant audience, and I'm gonna have trouble reading this because the writing is so small. But Brother El Abdul Muhammad, how you doing? Peace, love, and life from here in Cali, California. I say family, free the land. Good to hear from you, brother. Good to hear from you. How's everything going out there in Cali? You know, the place where we have the foundation of the Black Panther Party, 1966, Oakland, California. Oh man, I can't read this. I'm sorry. But another comment from our brother L. It's our version of we feared for our lives, just like the killer cops. All right, you know, and that's an interesting because I actually did a film many years ago called Stand Your Ground, and it was just about the perspective of a Black person being pulled over from the cop and fearing for their lives and killing the police officer. So yeah, you know, I mean, that's something because like legally, by their justification, we should be killing cops all the time. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm just looking at, they're always saying we fear for our life. Well, like I said earlier in the earlier broadcast, one of the most terrifying moments that we have as Black people, and I know all Black people can identify with this, almost all Black people, is when those blue lights start flashing behind you. Because you know, at any moment things can go terribly wrong, and you don't necessarily have to do anything wrong. You can do everything right, and everything can go terribly wrong. I mean, look at what happened to our brother Nichols. What did he do wrong? The own police chief said, well, we can't find any evidence that he should have been pulled over in the first place. There was definitely nothing that showed that he should have been violently attacked by these officers.
Well, you know, the first thing that was alarming to me was that when they showed that video, they immediately opened Mr. Nichols' door and snatched him out. You can't tell me that I would not have feared for my life if I'm getting pulled over for a traffic stop, and instead of them coming up to me saying license and registration, they open my door and snatch me out. I'm asking questions. What did I do? What's going on, man? And then for me to be asking questions, you trying to act like I'm resisting arrest because I'm asking questions. You don't want to snatch me out my car. I didn't see any discourse. You know, we talk about the white dude coming up there first because we saw his camera, but we also saw somebody snatch somebody out the car, and ain't nobody approached him and said license and registration. Then they tried to lie and say he was driving sporadically and all that. Let me tell you something, people. It's time for us to understand that there is no laws in the United States made for us that they're going to use in our favor for us until they decide that they want to apply those laws in a positive way to us. We have always been in a dogfight with these folks. It's time for us to police our own communities. It's time for us to have police force. It's time for them to come into our community and ask our police force any information that they need. And we decide if they can get the information, if they deserve a response from us. And that'll be the first step of us gaining back control of our communities. We're going to have to start doing that, people. I can't afford for my son or my nephew or my cousin to be killed by this enemy institution.
I'm gonna go to Fadali real quick. I think something's going on with your audio for a second. I'm sorry.
Okay, is it? Yeah.
There we go. Y'all gotta excuse us. We having some technical difficulties. We trying to share this.
Wait a minute.
What's up?
I got that other.
Okay, we're gonna go comrade. Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we have to do is understand that this system is not for us and never will be for us. There will be no situation about which we can think that because we can get reform or any kind of reform is going to be really for us. It's always going reforms are always short term, and also reforms are the enemy. The enemy stays in control, and as long as the enemy stays in control, you will not have anything that would benefit us. So we got to really understand that. And as I was saying earlier about the police that killed the guy at the library, at the White Station Library on Poplar, basically one of them unfortunately, he's still, I think, alive. But they killed the brother. So we don't know. From the news media, we got that this brother was supposedly, had a record of trespassing or whatever, and it started he was from Indianapolis, and he was here in Memphis. And he had several, and he had moved from the place to the library. Somehow the police was able to locate him, and all the time, all the 30 so-called arrests and all the other things he did, it never happened that he was able to, produce a gun and shoot an officer, didn't get killed. So we got to begin to, but they try to take us off because he was in the Church of God in Christ Church, one of the churches, and he was a faithful member. And he married a woman, and talking about the police officer wounded, and then we get all this information. You hear what I'm saying, to distract us, from what we understand. The Memphis police, that's the the modus operandi of police. And when a situation comes, the victim also winds up dead and not able to tell what happened or circumstances. And we have seen no camera record of what happened in that in that so-called altercation. And but I have no sympathy, because the police officer was black or whatever. I'm saying that this is the kind of situation that is normal, and they're still going to do the same thing regardless of what laws are passed or whatever. You're going to find the same modus up because the police is the occupation arm in our community. And they protect the property of the white supremacists and other capitalists who own our community, own our the land on which we are living, and so consequently they're going to continue to do it until we, as brother just said, get control over our communities and understand it's a protracted struggle. This is a protracted struggle. There are no heroes. In other words, an individual think he's gonna be a hero and he's gonna take on, police. He's gonna wind up in the same condition as brother Tyre Nichols, and even when we talk about Tyre Nichols, he asked, "What did I do?" Because they get us to say that we did something wrong. That's the reason why they stopped us, stopped him. And so he, had him question himself why he was stopped, and then he was also, not too far from his mother's house. And so in the second instance where we hear him calling for his mom, God, if he was running, he would perhaps run into his house so he can get witnesses and stuff and tell them what the police, So he was not able to make it to his house, but the last thing we heard him say was calling his mom. And we said, why would he call his mom? Because he was several yards away from his house. So these are the kind of things that we have to understand, because they also have to tell you well, drive over to somebody's house or to a store or something like that when the police come behind you, so they won't be. But in this situation, he was not allowed to pull up to do what he needs to do to identify. So those things don't work. And this is what we have to understand, because they are bound to do the things that they want to do to get the reputation, for being a tough cop and all those kind of things, and they're usually the ones that want to be the toughest cop that are wound up in these so-called organizations. I call them gangs within the police force that come into our community, and they take on that role of disciplining us right on the scene and all that kind of stuff, which is not in their purview, but that's what they're going to do, because that's what they understand. They're army, and what is the army going to do? The army is going to do everything to take out whoever it comes into contact with in any kind of way. But we unfortunately don't know ourselves that we are in a war. And so that's why our propaganda has to go to understand that we are in a war. And once we understand that I'm talking about we as a people are at war, then we will understand that they have no right to do the things, but it's a protracted struggle, which means that we know that it's going to take time, but it cannot happen inside of the system. So that's why we keep on saying that there's no remedies. We've exhausted all remedies. We've tried America. I mean, we have tried to make America work for us. America will not work for us. We work for America, but America will not work for us. And we have to understand that. And then that way, the idea of the united front. Let me give you one other example. 10 years ago, there were like 24 killings from 2011 to 2013. And I was a part of a group. The group was called the Black Autonomy Federation. And we went to do demonstrations at the 201 Poplar. We could never get the media. The media did not want to. It did not appear to come. When they came in the beginning, they found out the brother and sister were former members of the Black Panther Party, and so the story was more about them being former members of the Black Panther Party than it was, that the deaths of the police. So 24 people over a 2-year period were killed by the police in a homicide, and so we created a cop watch, and the cop watch is still probably on internet. But the cop watch, revealed all the circumstances. And then we had a 15-year-old boy that was killed by police that had supposedly befriended him, a black cop, had prevented, and he wound up shooting the boy in the back about 5 times. He claimed the boy was trying to arrest, but what was he doing in the neighborhood? Like he was like undercover or whatever. And he wound up killing the 15, and then he wound up leaving Memphis and going to Alabama. And so what I'm saying is there was no arrest or anything like that of that brother that left, and to show you that that what's happening now is something that's highly unusual, but it's done to cover up. So the emphasis on the 5 cops was just basically to cover up and say that they've done a good job in and arresting these officers in a week's time or whatever, firing them within a week's time. And once we learned that they had killed that brother, and then making the parents and the lawyer agreed to like a 2-year, a 20-year, what they call that, second degree murder and such. When really it still should be first degree murder. If you was in a so-called position of authority and you do what they do, that still should be first degree murder.
Definitely. Uh, and yeah, excuse me. We're sharing a screen. Um, but definitely, probably gonna cut this show a little bit short today because we have some other things that we have to do. This is a very busy day. I see you out there. Free to land to you, brother. And I'm gonna try to read these comments, but I told you my phone is kind of messed up. So, y'all been.
Tyre was targeted just like all blacks, including our children, teens. Police are the biggest gang in the country, running raw. That's true.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Police are the biggest gang in America. Um,
Sandra Bland, Philando Castillo, and how many more? You know the young lady Breonna Taylor.
hmm
Do you know that information has come out and it has been proven that they went there to rob her
I heard that.
as
Yep.
police
Mhm.
officers? And when they got to the scene, one of the guys went under the mattress to find supposedly thousands of dollars. And to this day, they haven't found the money. The person who left the money was in jail and was talking to somebody about the money being missing. And 2 days before that, a guy pulled up at a gas station, and these same cops, it's a circle. You know, usually when we talk about these cops, we don't know the history behind it. They have a gang like the Scorpion organization. These other cops were what you call the cops that are out there for the drugs, and they have snitches.
Informants.
They have informants. Those same cops with the Breonna Taylor robbed the dude at the gas station 2 days before, and the guy that robbed him was supposed to be assigned to desk duty. And they robbed him, turned the money in to the evidence room, and when the guy said that they arrested him illegally or wrongly, he got acquitted. And when they turned his money in, he was missing thousands of dollars. And they said, we counted it, and that's what we put in here. And he missing like $10,000 out of the money that they took from him. And he believed somebody told them that he had money on him. And they ran up on him while he was at the gas station, talking about he got weed. He had a blunt of weed. He said, I smoke weed, but there was no need for them to ransack his car, arrest him, illegally search his car. He wasn't smoking weed. That was just his personal stash. Then they tried to, once he was locked up, they went to his house and tried to find more money and drugs. Like somebody informed them that he was a drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't. He had been saving his money.
Yeah, I heard similar things account. Let's continue with this because I know we got to go in a minute.
Yeah. I'm a junior Panther right out of West Oakland. Dr. Huey P. Newton was my very revolutionary teacher as a child. Salute. Free the land, bro.
Definitely. Told you we have some of the most politically aware audience in the land, you know, because we bring together individuals who are serious about doing the work of liberating of the people. So, you know, thank you, brother. Thank you for joining us. We always enjoy you, brother. El Abdul Muhammad. Yeah, you got some more.
I think I read this one. Tyre was targeted like a black.
Okay. All right.
Biggest gang in the country. Melly Queen, free the land, Queen. Save the date, March the 31st to April the 2nd, 2023, in Charleston, South Carolina. Come celebrate with the new Africa. Oh, I'm missing a word. Yeah, celebrate with the Republic of New Africa, celebrating 55 years on the road to our plebiscite. Free the land. More power to you, Queen. National local Melly Queen. Yeah, I gotta always announce the name. National local New African elections coming up November the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 2023. Get with your local district or local election commissioner and make your New African vote really count. Free the land. That's right. The election is coming up. It happens every 3 years. Melly Queen again. Thank you for joining us on the New African Broadcast Association, NABA. Please check out our other show in your local listening. Number 1, New African Perspective on Mondays at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time on Facebook Live. 2, The Foundation of a Nation on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, Facebook Live as well. The 3rd is Conversation Between Comrades on Thursday at 5:30 Central Standard Time on Facebook. And the Truth and Power Corner on Fridays to end the week off at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on Blog Talk Radio at 516-387-1549. Free the land. I am my will by any means and all means necessary.
And you know, I didn't get an opportunity to catch the show yesterday. I got home late. Yeah, what was the show about yesterday, Melly Queen? Because I didn't get an opportunity to check it. I probably when I get home I'll pull it up and watch the archives. So give me a chance. Tell me how the show went yesterday. There's another comment.
Yeah, Melly Queen, the largest and most dangerous gang in America. America. Hey, I like that one. Yeah, I had the KKK in mind, but America, that's a new one.
America. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you know, he go way back to Dr. King, why he said, you know, he got us, you know, stop telling these black people, black teenagers, black youth, in the city, to put down the Molotov cocktails and rifles for non-violence if I can't speak to the violence that America does. You know, because America is the biggest veilers of violence in the world, and it's still that way. And unfortunately, too many times our people are the victims of this violence, of this American oppressive system that is built on the exploitation. But it's almost time for us to get out of here, because you said you got to get up out about 2:30. Yeah, it's about that time now.
1:30.
Oh, 1:30. Yeah. I'm gonna turn it over to the Grandmaster Teacher to give us some final words before we get out of here.
Okay, brothers and sisters, free the land. Make sure that we understand what we are dealing with. Understand that the police system in the United States and everywhere else where we're being oppressed and exploited will always play that same role. And we've got to begin not to fool ourselves and thinking that a reform is going to produce significant change. Reforms do not produce significant change for any length of time. And so consequently, what we have to do is say that we got to build our own nation. And we have a provisional government of New Africa that is in existence. And we have a Nation Day and on March 31st to April the 2nd. Then we have an election November 3rd, 4th, and 5th of this year, and began to try to see what how you can participate and how you can become a part of that. And we got to begin. And like when we talk to our people that are already aware, we're in the process of coming together with a united front, and the united front will come. And once that united front comes, we'll have more power to say things about ourselves to the point of where we'll be able to organize ourselves out of this system.
Definitely. Got any parting words before we get out of here, comrade?
No, just reach out to NAWA, the New African Broadcasting Association, to hear more positive things about our people and not the miseducation that you're getting from the mass media controlled by the Europeans and their descendants here in the Western Hemisphere and in Europe as well. So you got everything you need right here from now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna lead the broadcast. We're basically saying that, there are stages and steps in development, and talking about the problem, identifying the problem. I mean, that's really one of the first steps. Because if you look at the first step in the scientific method is define the problem. We become really good at defining the problem. So we've defined the problem. We've gathered information. We've created hypotheses. So now we have to test those hypotheses. We have to begin to create examples of real life independence. We have to become as independent as we can, as we have the resources to do at this particular time. We have to create, show what independence looks like within our community. So we can, when there's a problem in the community, we don't have to depend on the police. When somebody's sick, we don't necessarily have to depend on their hospitals. When we need to be educated, we don't have to depend on their schools. We have to create the things that will allow us to be able to do for ourselves. My name is Brother Prophecy. I'm with my comrades, Kakayi and Grandmaster Teacher Fadali. This is the Voices of New Africa. We're going to leave y'all with our battle cries we do always, and that is free the land, free the land, free the land.
Free the land.
See y'all again next week, y'all. Love y'all. And
We always say in the Black Panther Party that they can do anything